Hello, 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 hello. Is everything working? Yes, it is. Great. Sometimes I don't know if it's going to work until I press the button, so there we go. Hello and welcome to Too Long Didn't Read Tabletop RPGs with me, Fiona. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the host of this and a couple of other cool RPG podcasts, but that's not why you're sort of here for, right? This is an accountability stream where I go through and I pick an RPG that has been on my list, I will read this list, or it's on my hard drive, I should have a look at it, and go through it within like an hour and a half to 2 hours span, just to get a good feel of it, because sometimes the best way of learning an RPG really is to sit down and read it aloud to absolutely nobody watching. I hope you guys are doing well. I've had a very good week, in the sense of I ran the second session of an actual play that I'm recording for a different podcast. I know, oh, so mysterious and so vague, great. But just to sort of say that when I went into it yesterday, I was really nervous. The most nervous I've been in for a long, long time. And normally I don't get nervous. I think because ultimately it was a mix of not really knowing what was going to happen, a mixture of not really finishing the story in my head, of like what I could see the ending, but how to get there without forcing players onto a track, and also just like, what if it's not good? Which I know sounds really silly, but ultimately we had such a good time, such a good blast, and we've got another recording session next week as a result. So I'm just like, so hey, it's okay to be nervous, and you probably still get nervous all the time. But yeah, so and now we're at the end of the week. I did a lot of adulting things this week. I managed to sort out a couple of things that I've been putting off for years, which is, let me tell you, being an adult must be really difficult. For example, I managed to phone the post office today to sort of sort out my travel card, because I'm going away next weekend, very briefly, to go teach some improv in Amsterdam. And obviously, I don't have a travel card anymore because it. I didn't lose it; it just sort of ran out of date, and it was sent to the wrong address. There was a mixture of having to get a new one reissued, but also change the address, which was very difficult because I had to talk to someone about it, and it got sorted in 5 minutes. It's been something I have been putting off for 3 years. I think, yes, because it ran out during the pandemic, so yeah, I feel great. Honestly, I feel I can climb a mountain or something like that. The energy of like, oh, I've done it. So yes, that's right. I hope you're all doing well in chat. I hope you're all doing well if you're watching this later. Today, my friends, we are looking at Delta Green. Now, I'm going to be honest. I did not know about Delta Green until maybe a couple of months ago. And my initial impressions of it is like, is it just modern day Cthulhu? That is the initial thing of it, but I've been told it's really like up my street in terms of horror, in terms of eldritch stuff and supernatural stuff, also aliens. I have maybe an unfair sort of what's the word, typecasting when it comes to like horror films and horror stuff. Like, I've run Aliens the RPG. We've covered it on a stream for this channel. When I was running the second series, I wanted to go through the rulebooks again for Girls One These Worlds. I run the scenarios for that, and I really love the film Aliens, and I enjoy the world. Not too fussed about actual aliens. I do find anything like that really delves in. I don't know. I feel like the supernatural horror, that sort of folklore stuff, which we've been covering for over a couple of streams now, and that's something I've been dealing with. It's something I've been playing with for the last couple of months as part of my games. I run a regular Curse of Strahd campaign, so I'm all over that sort of stuff. I love the gothic horror. I love folklore horror. Anything to do with aliens, I honestly, I roll my eyes, which is not fair. Obviously, each to their own. But honestly, I definitely go, no, that's one too far for me, which I know sounds very silly. But I have heard that Delta Green is pretty fabulous, and I know for a fact that our friends over at Actual Play UK, they have an ongoing Delta Green stream, which goes on Thursday nights. People can go check that out, like an Actual Play, which I highly recommend. Actual Play UK is one of the best UK showcases of talent that's come out in the last year and a bit. Not to say that it's because I've been on it as well, but yeah, I'd highly recommend checking them out. The truth is out there. Oh, hello, Crafty Gobbo. How are you doing, my friend? How are you doing? Yes, the truth is out there. Weirdly, I really do enjoy X-Files because it's weird, and it has two very interesting protagonists. So yeah, I don't know. So yeah, I guess this is kind of X-Filesy in a way, but yeah, enough of me, enough of Big Face Fiona. Let's go over to Delta Green. We're going to look at the sort of the bio page. So you can get Delta Green on from the publishing site, which is Arc Dream. Is it Arc Dream Publishing? So that's who publishes them. I'm going to look at the Drive-Thru RPG Day. So we're not going to look at the actual rulebook today. They've got a really handy quick start, which is great, and it's freely available. So we're going to have a look at that. So let me show you. Let me go over to there's small Fiona Cam, and there's the website. Yes, the website is interesting, but yeah, Arc Dream Publishing. They are the main folks behind Delta Green, and let me tell you. Let me even zoom out a bit. Dhans. There is a lot of Delta Green stuff. Like holy heck. Hence the sort of on the level of Call of Cthulhu as well. And I will say some of their some of the artwork is very interesting, and some of it I'm just like, nah, I'm alright, thanks. But I have heard, if I just scroll over a little bit, that the Impossible Landscapes is quite a good starter Delta Green sort of adventure. You've got like a couple of missions in it there, and it won as an Emmy Award winner too for Best Graphic Design and Layout. How exciting! Oh, and there's some actual play recordings. Oh, there you go, Glass Cannon Network. They're always in there taking our one shots. But yes, there you go. But that's not the one we're looking at today. Let's go over to Delta Green. Need to know the free starter rule set. Whoa! Oh, hello, Super Dylan. Oh, nice to have you on here. How are you doing, my friend? JC Darcy, lucky. I know what you're up to, JC Darcy. Are we talking about Delta Green? Yes, we are. So welcome, Dylan. Just to describe what we're talking about here, because this might be the first time you're seeing this. So I try and do like a Too Long Didn't Read tabletop RPG stream, in which I am trying to be accountable and try and read all the RPGs that I have stuffed in my Google Drive account and also on the bookshelves here. And today we're looking at Delta Green, the free starter rules book. Because I was just saying, I've only come across it in the last 6 months. And as you sort of know, I'm sort of a big fan of horror. I'm a very big fan of folk horror and supernatural stuff. And Call of Cthulhu, I really love that. I've never heard of Delta Green. And I was just saying before, I'm not a big fan of aliens in general. That's when I roll my eyes a little bit. And that's what I've heard this is about. But people have absolutely recommended this to me. And I thought, why not check out the starter guide? That's what we're doing here today. You know nothing. I know, JC Darcy. Yes, I was saying before, like I did run Aliens, the RPG, but I really like that system. So, but there we go. So we're gonna look at the free starter rules. So like I said, you can get this for free on Drive-Thru RPG or on their website, which is Arc Dream Publishing. Let me just switch back to there so you can have a see of this. Oh, that's unhelpful. Yes, we were just looking at the Impossible Landscapes, which was recommended. I think, you know what, I realise now, Quinn's from Shut Up and Sit Down, they have started Quinn's Quest on YouTube, which is looking at RPGs, and their blog on their Patreon was talking about Impossible Landscapes and that they're looking to run it. That's why I've got it in my head just now. But yeah, you can see all the amount of like supplements you can get for Delta Green. So it's quite obvious if you're like, what does a Delta Green book look like? It looks like this, with the big sort of Delta Green text at the and telling you that sort of thing. Good. So let's scroll on down. The free starter rule set is, well, free, obviously, so that's always good. Platinum bestseller. Oh, you can't see that, it's off the screen, but platinum bestseller as well. And oh yeah, best free game, gold at the Ennies 2016. It's a pretty fun game. Oh, I'm excited then. I'm excited. If you say it's good, I believe you as the host of the One Shot Pod now. Congratulations again. That's very exciting news. So, welcome to the apocalypse. Born of the US government's 1928 raid on the the bad coastal town of Innsmouth, Massachusetts, the covert agency known as Delta Green spent 4 decades opposing the forces of darkness with honor, but without glory. Stripped of sanction after a disastrous 1969 operation in Cambodia, the Delta Green's leaders made a secret pact to continue their work without authority, without support, and without fear. Delta Green agents slipped through the system, manipulating the federal bureaucracy while pushing the darkness back for another day, but often at a shattering personal cost. Oh, I'm instantly getting what's it called? Hunter the Vigil vibes there as well. This idea that you are sort of lone individuals, part of a cell perhaps, fighting against dark forces in quotations. In Delta Green, the role-playing game, you are one of those agents. You are the one they call when unnatural horrors seep into the world. You fight to keep cosmic evil, from claiming human lives and sanity. You conspire to cover it all up so no one else must see what you have seen, or learn the terrible truths you've discovered. Dun, dun, dun. Alright, so the quick start rules, what we've got. We're going to get complete rules for conducting investigations, overcoming crises, fighting for your life, and watching your sanity slip away. Oh gosh, like real life, huh? Complete rules for character creation. Oh, that's very interesting. Sometimes you don't get that with quick start. Yeah, they just give you the pre-gens. But here, yeah, we've got another 6 characters as well ready to play. That's excellent. And we have an operation as well. Last things last. Ready for the handler, so the game moderator. Ooh, is that what we're called? I love a good title for the GM. To introduce your team to Delta Green tonight. Oh, well, okay, fine. That's excellent. Oh, I'm already excited. I think what we'll do, we'll go for as much of the rules as possible, but we might leave that operation out so people don't get spoiled. People want to play this after stream, or play tonight, as the bio says here. All right. Thank you. Oh, it's just nice. It's just nice to have, friends do well. I'm like, yes, people do well. So yeah, fantastic. All right, let's move then to the PDF. So yeah, you can tell such master, such skill. So the PDF in total, although I know it's off the screen, it's about 52 pages. So that's not bad for a quick start as well. Again, something you can read easily in an hour and a half if you're having a quick look through. And yeah, all it's called is Need to Know. So I can imagine that quite a lot of Delta Greens, maybe missions and stuff, they just, they're simple and good to know. I think the only thing I'd say is it would be nice if it said quick start somewhere, just so that people don't get confused. Sometimes that's what I do as well. I sort of look at it not only as a sort of a game design point of view and sort of mechanics about like what I like, etc. Anything accessible as well. I have over the screen. Yeah, no alt text, unfortunately. I always say this. I'm like, oh, there's no alt text. It's just because Possum Creek Games with Wander Home, when I happened to found their alt text, I absolutely enjoyed the little descriptions of the creatures. So now I'm like, why doesn't everything have alt text as like a little Easter egg bonus? There we go. Alright, let's move in. Enhance. I like the interior graphic design of like letters. That's pretty cool. Okay, it's just repeating that same thing from before. Oh, it's just repeating the same thing. Oh, and look, there's a QR code, so you can visit it for games, novels, anthologies, short stories, character sheets, ready to play, operations, and links. Connected with agents on Facebook, Twitter. Ooh. Mysterious, probably. Well, it's not X because Twitter's there. Maybe it is Instagram. Oh. And the infamous Delta Green mailing list. Oh, more things should have mailing lists, I think. All right, I need to know. The who knows the end? What has risen may sink. The sunk may rise. Loathsomeness waits and dreams in the deep, and decay spreads over the tottering cities. One thing I will say, I'm sure everyone here knows it. H.P. Lovecraft was not a nice guy, and good, in the sense of like what he writes about was inspiring in the sense that he's got us to some really cracking RPG games, but we shouldn't necessarily celebrate him because he's just not a nice dude. And it's just something I want people to remember is that we can be inspired by certain works like Call of Cthulhu. Obviously, it's led on to like Cthulhu. Pulp, Delta Green, all that sort of thing, and it's just be like, this is where it's come from, but maybe we don't celebrate the man per se. I know some people have differing opinions of that per se, but it's just something to check. Always check where things have come from, because we're all problematic. We there's always different bits and pieces, so it's just good to be aware of it. Be aware. Yeah, Arc Dreaming Publishing, fantastic. I like how they're little not little, but the writers have come up with they are the Green Delta Partnership, which I quite like as a title. Maybe I should call myself that, the Fiona Howard Partnership. All right, let's look at the content. So, we've got 4 main sections. I can see at the bottom here, that's Last Things Last. So it's about 12 pages long, that scenario. We've got Welcome to Delta Green, so introduction of what it is. What is an agent? That's roughly what. How's that? Oh, that's okay. That's not. Well, sample characters take up quite a bit of that, so that's roughly. Just look at that. That's 9 pages. Oh, 3 pages to create an agent. Down. Quite good. And then the game system itself takes up the majority of the rest. About 8 pages? Yeah, about 8 pages. Nice. Oh, I'm already like This is good. Good. Look at these images as well. Hey peeps, lurking at work. Hello, Fueled Chaos. How are you doing? All right, my friend. Yes. How is work? Is it thriving on a Friday? Hope you're doing well, man. And yeah, look forward to talking to you later as well about the Warhammer stuff, which is exciting. So, let's dive right in. So, Delta Green is a role-playing game about cosmic terror and deadly conspiracy. It's about men and women making awful choices and doing terrible things to prevent far worse horrors, incursions of unnatural forces that infect and destroy humanity. Delta Green is a game about fear, about seeing the horrors come and to choose to stand against them. This book provides everything you need to play, and more detailed rules can be found in the Agent's Handbook. Ooh, that's so good. Like, again, I love a good succinct intro about what a game is, and that's something I can just be like, I can just say that at the beginning of stream. I can say that just to the players, just saying about what it is. I always love when it has a line like, it's about men and women making awful choices and doing terrible things to prevent far worse horrors. I love that. Ooh, I love that as a line. Role-playing game, again, we probably know this, is played by a handful of friends around the table or in an internet conference. Ooh, what's that? What's that? Is that 2016 calling? One player is the handler, responsible for presenting and managing the game. The other players take on the role of agents of a secret organisation called Delta Green. Agents investigate horrors described by the handler. As an agent's player, you describe how your agent acts and reacts, what your agent says and does. The handler describes what happens next. The goal is to become so immersed in your agent's imagined experiences that the real world drops away and you can feel the chill of unnatural horror. Alright, I'm getting sucked in now. I'm already going, oh yeah, that's a tick. And like I said, I love when games put like stuff like handler and agents, like actually defining, like giving the terminology to people in games. That it makes it so it's oh, you're just not just a player, not just a game master. Like there's no problem if your game is like that at all. I just think it's just, for me, it's always like a little bit of performing as well, just some extra little bits and pieces, and I absolutely love that sort of stuff. So yeah, handler, ooh, I love that. That makes me instantly think like, okay, you're on missions. It's very X-Files. It's very I can't remember what it's called now with Villanelle. God, I can't remember. But yeah, it is that sort of thing where you're given missions and you've got to complete them regardless of what happens. So the handler is the MC, referee, host, and narrator. If you're the handler, your job is to present a mystery to the players, some terrible event that their agents must investigate, a horrific threat that they must thwart, as well as the consequences if they fail. If you take the roles of all the other characters that the agents encounter. It is also your job to present clues that lead the agents deeper into the mystery, and to make sure that overlooking an important clue doesn't leave the players stymied. Wow, I don't know what that word is. I'll look that up afterwards. I guess not like locked out of the mystery, right? I like that because a lot of times when we play games, when it's like, oh, the DC is this, and no one, if it's a locked door or something, people get stuck. It's like, well, we don't want to shut out the rest of the story for them. Maybe it just takes some time to unlock the door and something bad happens as a result of the time that is wasted. Or it's like if you fail a check climbing down a mountain and the avalanche happens, maybe you do get out of the way of the avalanche, but you hurt yourself in the fall and it would take a bit more damage than you expect. Like, you don't stop the progress going forward. So I very much appreciate that. It's okay. Looking forward to more Warhammer chats indeed. Yes, I agree. More fun stuff on the horizon. So the operation. There are many Delta Green operations already written, some freely available online and some for purchase. There's one, Last Things Last, at the end of this very book. The handler needs to read an operation thoroughly to be ready to run it. Only the handler should read the operation. Ooh, many handlers create their own operations from scratch. The handler's guide includes many suggestions and guidelines to make that easy. Yes, so that's part of we've got the agent's guide and the handler's guide. Those together create the main core rulebooks, right? So, as the handler describes the unnatural terrors and the players describe their players' reactions and investigations, a narrative emerges. A tale of secrets and dread, of deep horror and terrible consequences. That's Delta Green. Roll credits. Ba 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 ba. All right, what do we need? Oh, great question, like that at the front. What do we need to play Delta Green? So, with this book and the handler screen that comes with it, does it? I don't think it does, this PDF. You'll have everything you need to play Delta Green. In this book, you'll find rules for creating agents, 6 sample agents, and a fully playable version of the core rules and an operation ready to play. As again, another interesting thing, sometimes we have quick starts that have very limited version of the rules, which is good to get you going. I don't know, I'm on the fence about it because I totally understand why you wouldn't want to give all the rules away, especially if you're doing a Kickstarter or you know getting stuff out. But I think if your main framework of rules is really simple and you want people to use it fully, put it in the quick start. Put it under a Creative Commons license for people to use and play with, because we should get more people into playing games and not have this sort of accessibility barrier to it. Get people excited to play, and then maybe they want to then go and find out more about and support you in other projects as well. So what else do we need? You also need pencils, okay, to record changes to your character sheet. Scratch paper to draw sketches and take notes. Ooh, and dice. Delta Green uses polyhedral dice common to role-playing games. 4-sided, 6-sided, 8-sided, 10-sided, 12-sided, and 20-sided. Okay, so a full set then. All right. The game plays best when you have a few of these, a few of each on the table. Or you can find automatic dice rollers on the web and mobile apps. Gosh, 2016 is calling, huh? For iOS users, we recommend an app called Match Dice. Let's see if it's still around, shall we? Let me go to my iTunes store and have a look. So exciting. Let's see. Yeah. No, you know what would be good? Probably not in the iTunes store. Maybe at the App Store, Fiona? Idiot, honestly. Let's see. Match Dice. Ooh. I was excited there for a second, but I don't. It might have changed its name. Although I do get an advert for Dice Dreams that comes up. I don't think that's a role-playing game. That is unfortunate. Yes, this is the problem when you sort of put in links or sort of reference stuff. It's so tricky. I don't know if I would mention any particular apps, and this just comes from someone who creates content for university. So often we ask like our academics to check back and review their content every year and update any of the links that might have broken or any stats that might have changed, etc., new data, etc. And they never do. They always like being very precise, which is great. We like being precise with things, but as soon as it breaks, that's it. It's dead in the water, isn't it? So, oh dear. Right. Rolling the dice. So when the rules need you to roll dice, they use a particular nomenclature to save time and space. Yes. So we've got the D8, the 46, etc. Yes, we don't need more of that. We hopefully should get that. Percentile dice. So actions in Delta Green are resolved using percentile dice. Brilliant. So very much like Call of Cthulhu then. So that means you roll 2d10, 2 10-sided dice, and get a number from between 1 and 100. Before you roll, designate one as the tens digit and the other one as the units, essentially. And here's the thing, again, I know you could be like, have one that actually has tens and one that is just a unit. I just say different coloured dice, personally. That's how I just know. Because sometimes you may be tempted to be like, it's definitely 31 rather than, 13, I don't know. But yeah, I always try and do different colours. That's how I am able to work it out. But maybe online would be better, like pick a number between 1 and 100. So a 0 on the tens die counts as 0, except when the ones is also a 0, and then that counts as, and the 0 on the tens counts as 10, for example. Okay. If both dice come at 0... Wait, that's different there. So 0 on the tens die counts as 0. Except when the ones die also counts as 0. And then the 0 on the tens die counts as 1. What counts as 10? But then it's going to say here, but if both dice come up as 0, it's 100. I know what it's trying to do. It's trying to be like... That does not make sense at all. I've completely confused myself there. But yeah, I understand the sort of main rule. So if the 10 comes up and it comes up as 3, that's what it's trying to say. It's this line here. The 10's die comes up as 0 and the 1's die comes up as 3, and it's 3. But if it's both of them as 0, it's a critical fumble as a word. Right. Got you. So how are we an agent in this? So a Delta Green game begins with the handler asking the players to introduce their agents. Describe your agent's every day-to-day life. What your agent's day-to-day life is like. Work, friends, family, mundane, but critical things your agent is willing to do. The handler's next job is to introduce the operation, the events that will lead you to your agent to confront the unnatural horror. As a player, you will speak in your agent's voice and work with your friends at the table to make sure it is a game that everyone. Ooh, so does it start like a little mini vignette? No, I was going to say vinaigrette. No, a vignette. There you go. It's a mini vignette where you sort of talk about your day, because the Gauntlet does that quite a lot with like Brindlewood Bay. I always go on about Brindlewood Bay because it's great, and the Between as well. That sort of checking in and like showing a montage of what the players are up to before the actual story begins. The other game I'm thinking of is Mars Colony by Tim C. Copan, and they have vignettes all over the place, like at the beginning and end. Brilliant. I really like that to introduce a very political game which is set on Mars. Mars Colony there. So, describe your agent's actions. First and foremost, listen to the handler and react to what he or she says. The handler is your window into your agent's world. Ask questions. Describe how your agent reacts. The handler says what happens. Sometimes you want your agent to do things that may not succeed. This is likely in crisis or emergency when events spiral out of control. Constantly. The handler may ask you to roll dice. Roll well and achieve what you want. Fail and you don't. Either way, the handler will take that into account to describe what happens next. Oh, I see. These are almost like player principles, aren't they? So as a sort of a way to get like, describe your player's actions, your agent's actions, sorry, and then respond quickly, speak for your agent, trust the handler there. I don't know, tricky. I like that. So already it's like, here are some player principles to hand out and sort of set those expectations. So respond quickly. Don't let the game bog down while you decide the best way out of a bad situation. Act on your agent's instincts and keep the game going. This is a very interesting one. Sorry to keep stopping on this, but because I played in a game recently, I ran a game recently, and we were in the middle of a big fight, and something happened to one of the player's characters in the sense of like, I think just totally caught the player off guard. And we spent a good 10 minutes on that person's turn because they were just not sure what to do. And they didn't want to make it worse. I think because they hadn't expected it was like a very poor roll from them and a really good roll from me. And we spoke about it afterwards and we did a proper check-in about it because ultimately there is that pressure to be like, I don't know what to do. People are looking at me. I need to do something quickly. I think the advice of like acting on your instincts, is it's solid, and I think sometimes players get worried about getting it wrong because sometimes like we may think, oh, they're going to do this, and then they don't, and we might be like, oh wow, that's totally not where I would have taken it, but that's cool. That's the thing. I don't think anything you do as a player, if you're all on the same page, if you've done your session zeros, if you checked in, anything the player does is what was meant to happen. I'm a big believer in that, and as long as we check in about it, it's fine. But I also think there is a place to be like, hey, do we need a break? You need to have a think about it. There's no pressure on doing it, or just maybe taking your turn later as well. If that's what the player needs, because the player's more important than the story in that front. So it's so tricky, because I guess, obviously from that point of view, that was because we were in the middle of combat, and there's lots of mechanic stuff going on, whereas this may be a little bit different, perhaps. It's just something I think about it. Ooh, looks interesting. Hello, Taylor. How are you doing, my friend? How are you doing? It's nice to have you here. Yes, we're looking at Delta Green today as the quick start. So it's called Need to Know if you want to have a check out, but glad to have you with us. Alright, speak for your agent. One way to immerse yourself in the game, like Delta Green, is to speak in your agent's voice. Think like your agent. Take on mannerisms you've invented for your agent, and imagine the horrors of the game from your agent's point. If things get too intense, take a break, but remember that you and the other players are here for a horror game. Yes, I agree with that. I'd also say it's okay to talk in the third person. I'm not someone that does voices very well. I'm not someone who does accents or anything like that. I can't think of like cool one-liners, so I'm very happy to talk about myself in the third person, and also playing in the game as well. Fiona always talks about herself in the third person. Respect the mood, so mood is everything. Enjoy the bleak humour that often comes from seeing the trouble the agents fall into. But don't let your eagerness get a laugh don't let your eagerness to get a laugh ruin the suspense and the chill of confronting cosmic terrors. Ooh, that is tricky. It's the same thing with improv, is that sometimes we see a joke, but in order to get the joke, you undermine what's been built, and it's such a cheap way to get something. But I also would say, certainly with horror, sometimes people will make jokes just to break the tension and to have a laugh, just to be like, oh gosh, this is really bad, isn't it? Like, and it's so difficult because I do it all the time. I'm very bad at doing it. Like, I try and be very stony faced and be like, this is a serious story that we're telling, get people in the mood, and then I will make a really bad joke or use that sort of gallows humor type thing. But I think here, what I would say is that I always let players chat. Like, I'm happy to meet up like half an hour earlier if people are around, and start the game late if they want to chat and be scared and like make fun of the game. Do that in certain breaks, certain designated time for it, just so that it doesn't necessarily boil over into the game. Because you as the game master will have control of that. But I think because ultimately people are excited to play games like this. People really love horror, and I think it's just that the eagerness of it. Get them to talk about it. Like they're excited. They're about to go into like an escape room or on like a horror haunted house, that sort of thing. So instantly get the excitement out at the beginning or during the break. And like again, those check-ins are so important in that front. But it is so tricky. It's something that I still struggle with. Is that sort of I always break the tension with a really bad joke. Even when I'm running the game. So, work with the other players. As a role-playing game, Delta Green is social. How you behave at the table affects how everyone enjoys the game. The same social rules apply here as in any conversation. Don't talk over other players, and don't try to keep all the attention. Offer ideas and suggestions, but don't tell people they're doing it wrong. Avoid arguments. If you disagree with another player's decision or the handler's interpretation of the rules, let it slide. If you think it's critical, talk to the handler about it. I mean, yes, overall, I think I agree. It's so tricky, though. I think, again, as a player, if I can see the handler is doing something, I usually go, so can I just check something with you? I've interpreted the rules as this. How would you rule it? I always ask that, and I always check in with the players, the handlers, the GM anyway before a game, because for someone who does read a lot of RPGs, I do retain quite a lot of knowledge, and often it's wrong as well. I have to say that I'm not like some sort of encyclopedia, but sometimes I'm like, oh, that's not how the rules played. But I always offer when I'm running a game. I'm always saying like, hey, if I get a rule wrong and you know about it, please correct me on it. Mostly because I'm showcasing games that, you need to show the rules right to an audience, especially if it's a sponsorship stuff. That's how I feel anyway. So I'm very happy to be corrected on a rule, or for somebody to like, I think this, and then I can rule of cool it. But I'd rather set that expectation in that session 0, and then if I'm a player and that GM hasn't done that, I might ask them privately, or also say, hey, how do you feel about rule correction? Just asking. Because sometimes they're like, no, I'm actually okay. I'm concentrating on the story. How I do it is do it, and then as the player that, and you can always come to them afterwards. I think just saying those expectations out loud is just really, really important at that front. And then finally, trust the handler. You're both here for the same reason. Suspenseful horror game of Delta Green. Sounds good. Ooh, how to beat the handler. I love stuff like this, by the way. The way the interior. Oh! I didn't see the blood down there. Apologies. I was like, what? Yes, be careful. I think let's be careful in this this quick start. Maybe there'll be some images that maybe I have to scoot past, but apologies. I did not realise there was blood in this. So we have just the way this paper is taped to it. I love that sort of graphic design choice. Very cool. But also still readable. That's the other thing as well. Sometimes you're like, this is really nice, but I can't read it for rubbish. Oh, and it is screen readable. There you go. So, the handler's job is harder than playing an agent, but it can be far more rewarding. The best handler has an active imagination, good judgment, a willingness to improvise, hey, yes and a keen sense of mood and timing. But even if you've never run a role-playing game before, you can run Delta Green. Delta Green is a horror game, and not just any kind of horror game. It's about Lovecraftian cosmic terror. It is about confronting threats beyond human comprehension. It's about the end of humanity and the struggle to keep it all at bay just a little longer. The more you evoke that mood at the table, in large ways and small, the more memorable and thrilling the game will be. Constantly looking for ways to reinforce a sense of the agent's isolation and vulnerability in a world. Ooh, love that. Yeah, because ultimately, that's the thing about horror games. No matter what kind of subgenre it is, it is totally about that isolation. You're on your own, and then secondly, vulnerable to something. Love that. So present a vivid world. The player's agents act in an imagined world that is, in most respects, like our own. If you say they're in a downtown warehouse, the players will already know what you mean. Be sure to fill in details to help bring that world to life. Is the warehouse dusty from disuse? Is it stifling hot from the summer's heat, or shakily cold from the winter's snow? Is it crowded with pallets and machinery and crates, or is it an empty cavern? Help the players see the world through their agent's eyes. Yes, I think we did cover trophy gold on this channel, didn't we? Sometimes I find it a big struggle, especially if there's like huge paragraphs of text. Especially if you're the GM and you're looking through oh god, there's a little bit of description here. Where is it? And then you find it, and maybe it reveals a little bit too much about what's in a room. Trophy Gold does this great thing with layout, and I know I spoke about it quite a lot when we did the stream of it, whereby it has the top, it says, what is the aim of this particular scene? And you can say that to the players, and it has something underneath it saying moments, and it's like one or two throwaway lines that talks about the weather, the way the room is set, the sounds, using all five senses, and then having a list of them, which you can just throw out at any point. And I just thought, oh, that makes it so much easier. And as well as that whole sort of playset element, it has a bit of what was it? It was objects, traps, and treasures, I think, and so elements, I think maybe it was, which was in some sort of table. Yeah, I do highly recommend checking out Trophy Gold. I mean, anything by Jason Cordova. Sorry, that's Jess Ross, that one. But yeah, Trophy was really good fun when we looked at it here. Portray interesting characters. Present every non-player character or NPC. Why aren't we calling them something else? We've got handlers, we've got agents, NPCs. As a fully realized human being. Every character has an agenda that the agents must try to discern. Even if a character is featured for only a few minutes, he or she should feel real and interesting. If a character is dull, take a moment to put yourself in that character's head and figure out how he or she would respond to the game's events and the agent's action. This is especially important for characters who are the least sympathetic, such as people who willingly embrace unnatural horrors to get what they want. Not even the most murderous cultist sees himself as the villain. If you can make the players sympathize with their enemies, the terrors of Delta Green become more pronounced. Yeah, absolutely. Making villains or even just NPCs 3D such a great. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. Doing that with sometimes it's really hard to do. So you get using that sort of hey, this is their goal. This is this. What other bits can we add to it? There's what's it called? Faith Accelerated. It's just because I've been writing it up for the workshop I'm going to run next week. But they have a really cool way of creating characters. Fate does anyway, and it's the same in Fate Accelerated. But you have that high concept of saying what your character is in one line. Then you have the flaw, or something about them that is negative that you can sort of play off. That's going to cause them issues coming up. And then you have 1 to 3 additional sort of tenants, I would call them, but imagine it like a tent pole essentially. So you've got the top of the tent and the poles stretching out, and where they hit So it might be stuff about them that isn't necessarily, you might not necessarily relate to that high concept per se. It is something separate to them. So like hobbies, for example. So if I did myself, I could be like, Fiona is an e-learning technologist by day, and by night is an RPG enthusiast. Okay, so that's like a summary of what I am. It's not a great summary. I wouldn't play that in a role-playing game, I'll be honest. Weakness could be something like, what is my weakness? I don't know. Let's go for it. Gets distracted when food is about. I'm like, oh, it's just because I had some chocolate before I came on. I'm like, oh, I could do some more. So that's like two related things that could come up and help me or hinder me. And then the other things are tenets. So what else? Performs in a regular improv troupe. Does the gym. Likes dogs, that sort of thing. So you got those three things. So that, yeah, it's separate to that person. So that's why I think when you're thinking of NPCs, you'll probably have that high concept and the floor, perhaps. But you might not have those additional tenets or those additional tent poles. So I always try and think of one or two of them, which might never come up, by the way. But at least you know that they're there. If you know that a villain, I don't know, loves holidaying in Cornwall. That's all you need to. That's all you need to know. It's a little secret for you. Random fact. Fiona's fun fact about villains. And interpret. Sorry. Interpret the rules fairly. Sometimes there's disagreement about how a rule should work. When necessary, it is the handler's job to act as referee. You need to learn the rules and be willing to make a judgment call in order to keep things moving. Never forget that you and your friends are at the table to have a good time playing a scary game. Make sure you hear what the players have to say, and if you overrule someone, be patient and respectful. Earn the players' trust and keep it, but always err on the side of fear. What I also do as well, if I'm not 100% sure about the rule and I've taken 30 seconds to look through all the rule books and search online, I always say, this is how I reason it out. And I'd reason it out in front of everyone. Be like, this is what I'm going to do, and go forward. And then at the break, I will check the rule. And if I'm right, great. If I'm not, then we can go from there. I hope that's okay. And just because say, honestly, it's just so much easier. Especially if you already set that expectation about people correcting you in-game. Alright, and then we've got an example of play. I'm not going to read out the example of play. I've said it before on this channel, is that I personally don't find them too helpful myself. I know it's a way to demonstrate certain rules and stuff, so sometimes that's helpful when I read out. If I'm not sure about a rule, I would read out the example of play. This is just giving an example of just how like a session in a role-playing game would go. But there you go. So we've introduced ourselves to the world of Delta Green, which I think is nice, snappy. I think we took a bit longer because I'm just talking lots. So, Delta Green. So we're on to characters now. So Delta Green revolves around agents. The rules define agents in great detail to help the players bring them to life. Take a look at the character sheet on page 13 and 14, and all the ingredients are there. Okay, we'll switch forward there in a second. We've got the name. So Delta Green's games are most efficient when they feel grounded in the real world. So make the name sound real. Avoid cliches and silliness. Oof, well, there goes my my method of like looking around and like going, Alice Hollow, just because I can see two books. One says Alice, one says Hollow on it. I'm just putting them together. Profession. This is your biggest decision. Profession determines your agent's skills, role in an operation, and sometimes the resources your agent can bring to bear by requisitioning the equipment. A handful of core professions are most frequently seen amongst agents are anthropologist or historian, computer scientist or engineer, federal agent, physician, scientist, and special operator. There are many other professions described in the handbook. That's quite cool. We've got 1, 2, 4, 6, 8. That's 8 they've described here. That's pretty good. Which agency or company does your agent work for? Include your agent's job title and rank if appropriate. Nationality. Delta Green organizations exist within the US government, and so most agents are American. But if your game is set in another country, your agents could be local, unofficial friendlies. who conduct Delta Green operations with the guidance of a Delta Green control officer, someone from the CIA or the military, played by the handler. Oh, I mean, I'm a big fan of like taking stuff like that and moving it elsewhere. Like Tales from the Loop has done that recently with one of their source books, and obviously Vampire the Masquerade does it. Like having, oh, and of course, Vaesen does it with the mythic Britain and Ireland, taking like the core concept and then putting it into a different. Those are the ones that just come to my mind instantly. Then we've got sex and age. So Delta Green mostly recruits agents in their 30s. Oh, hooray! Hooray! Life is not dead after 20s. Take that. Old enough to be established in the challenging careers. Most agents stay in the group until retirement age if they live that long. If your agent is younger, what special skills or circumstances brought him or her into the group? If older, what causes your agent to stay? Interesting. It's interesting that they've set it instantly like it's in your 30s. I quite, to be honest, as someone who is in their 30s, I very much appreciate that. I don't want to play young'uns forever or old'uns forever. Like it's nice to play someone your own age. That's how that's what I like anyway. Education and occupational history. So most agents are in professions that require high education, a bachelor's degree or a graduate's degree. Describe an education that fits your agent's skills. This is an interesting one. Because I personally don't think you do need a degree, and this is someone who works in higher education. For certain things you would do, obviously, like healthcare professional, ideally, yeah. But I feel you can be anything. It's just the way our systems work. As long as you've got a good attitude and can learn quickly on the job, life experience is, I think, more valuable. But again, that's not part of the game. Anyway, stats. So 6 stats that define your agent as good, 6 stages that define what your agent is good or bad at in broad terms are strength, constitution, dexterity, intelligence, power, and charisma. Yes, the Call of Cthulhu power there, I see you. They indicate overall qualities but not specific training. Each has a score from 3 to 18. Most human adults have 10 to 11 in each. Stats lower than 6 or higher than 15 are rare. Each stat has space for its ×5 rating. Multiply the stat by 5 and fill in that number. That is the percent chance that your agents can use the stat successfully in a crisis. Wait, so 18 times 5? 18 times 5 says 60. I'm trying to, yeah. So 90, okay. Yes. Oh, Fiona, gosh, why have I done this to myself? Yes, because, yeah, I got it now. I mathed good online, great. Each stat has a space for distinguishing features. If a stat is below 9 or above a 12, it stands out in some way. Write an objective or short description to illustrate it. If your intelligence is 15, you might write, very clever, for example. Alright, derived attributes. These are point values that change. Hit points, HP, indicate physical health, will points, and WP, indicate mental fortitude and drive, and sanity points, SAN, indicate a connection with humanity and reality as most people perceive it. The breaking point is the exact point of sanity at which your agent has been worn down enough by trauma to develop a new long-term mental disorder. If SAN reaches that point or below, subtract your agent's power from the new SAN, and that is your agent's new breaking point. Okay, and yeah, just to say, I'll just say this now, stuff like this and Call of Cthulhu, all that sort of thing, uses the idea of sanity as a gameplay mechanic. Again, your mileage may vary and what that means and what that sort of, how that impacts as well. So just, yeah, take care of yourself in this part, I think. But getting very dark in here. Let me turn on my big light. Does absolutely nothing, but it makes me feel like I'm not in the dark. Bonds. A bond represents the most important human relationships in your agent's life. It can it's either a specific person, so spouse, son or daughter, best friend, or a group of people who are tightly enough bound to that your relationship with one affects your relationships. Well, hang on. Let me read that again. A group of people who are tightly enough bound that your relationship with one affects your relationships with the others. Oh, I didn't read that final bit of a line. So the platoon from the war, spouse and kids support group. Each bond has a score that begins equal to your agent's charisma stat. When the bond score falls, that relationship suffers. Demanding professions allow for fewer bonds. Motivations and mental disorders. Your agent starts with 5 motivations: personal beliefs, drives, or obsession. Motivations aren't as powerful as bonds, so they don't have scores. Bring them up in play to show what motivates and supports your agent and makes life worth living. Each time sanity hits the breaking point, replace a motivation with your agent's new mental disorder. Incidents of sanity loss without going insane. There are 3 checkboxes for each of violence and helplessness. They track how close your agent is to becoming psychologically adapted to that kind of trauma. If your agent loses 1 or more sanity due to violence or helplessness, but doesn't go insane, mark the appropriate checkbox. If your agent goes insane due to that type of trauma, erase all the marks, and then see later for adapting to sanity loss. I've got to say, that sounds very ominous. Anyway, skills. A skill is a body of specialized knowledge that takes months or years to learn and decades to master. Each skill has a percentile rating from 0 to 99. That's your agent's percent chance of using the skill in a crisis. The skills are defined in detail in the agent's handbook. They're self-explanatory with a few exceptions. Oh, okay, brilliant. We've got craft is the mastery of some difficult trade such as electronics, carpentry, or plumbing. You mint? Oh, yes, it's human intelligence. I was like, is that some sort of thing you eat? Human intelligence, the study and deciphering of behavior and motivations. Oh, okay. Sig intelligence of some sort. Oh, signal intelligence, I'm guessing it's the skill of encryption, decryption, and signals intelligence. And then the unnatural skill indicates knowledge of things man was not meant to know. The most awful secrets of reality. So what do skill ratings represent? So each skill has a base value in parentheses, such as athletics in brackets 30%. Every Delta Green agent starts off with at least that much skill. Yeah, so that's the same as Call of Cthulhu. Having a skill above the base value reflects unusual training or expertise. So, and then we've got a little table here. It's always good to have these things. We've got the amount of training, and it's roughly doled out between that first one, which is 20%, where you are sort of more of a dabbler, assuming that the skill started at 0, and then you sort of increases in 10%, sort of 10% for a little while, and then it goes to, and again 20 here, and then another 10 and a 10. So what we've got hobbyist, basic training or a college minor, years of experience or a college major, decades of experience or a grad degree, and then a lifetime mastery there as well. Oh, so this is the character sheet. Let's zoom out a little bit so people can see it. Is it all on one page? No, it's not all on one page. Ah, gosh darn it. Okay, but it looks fairly straightforward. It looks a lot more straightforward than the Call of Cthulhu one, because the Call of Cthulhu one had all these skills, which I can see here, and it was sort of over here. It was just very tiny writing, I seem to remember. One thing I'd say as well is, oh, that's really cool, actually. I was about to say, as like what's happening here, but then there's a box that you can put whatever sex you want to identify as in there. Great, very good to see that. Again, I know, again, it was 2016, but it'd be nice to have a box for pronouns, just so you remember if you're using pronouns that aren't necessarily the ones that you identify outside of the game with, just so you remind yourself. I see. Okay, well, it looks very straightforward. It looks very clean, at least. And I very much appreciate on the side here what we've got. We've got like personal data. Oh, I guess it's supposed to be like a file, isn't it? Oh, I get it now. Yeah, so we've got, yes, because I like these little labels here. Because you could be like, I can't find the thing. It goes, oh, if you're looking for your bonds, it's in the psychological data section. Yeah, I see that. That's pretty good. We've got injuries, equipment there, remarks. Oh, I love this. Authorizing officer and agent signature. That's very cool. So yeah, it is just like an actual... oh, look at that restricted there in the background. Can you see that on the screen? Yeah, you can. Oh, okay. I like that. I hope, again, there's a form-fillable version. Again, just for accessibility reasons. Yeah, I quite like that. Oh, I've got some other ones on here as well. So we've got, this is going for the page 2, isn't it? So wounds and ailments. If your agent is hurt, make a note of it here. Describe the repercussions as you play. Give enough details to make it interesting. Armor and gear. The handler may assume that your agent has whatever gear is typical for the agent's profession. Write down specific items here. Your agent wears armor. Excuse me. Write down the armor points from a value from the agent's handbook. Weapons. The skill percentage is your agent's skill with that kind of weapon. Copy it from the front of the sheet. So we've got firearms, heavy weapons, melee weapons, unarmed combat, or whatever applies. Get the other entries from the agent's handbook. Base range is the distance at which your agent can use it without a penalty. That reduces your agent's skill. And then damage is the amount that it reduces your target hit points by. Armor piercing is the amount it reduces the target's armor points. Lethality, it's a chance for a heavy weapon to kill a target outright. And there's a kill radius. Oh my goodness. How far lethality... no, it's not lethal. Lethality reaches. In personal notes and details, don't overlook the intangibles that make an agent memorable. Not rememberable. What's something What's something admirable about your agent? What's something that people often dislike about your agent? What brought your agent to Delta Green? Why does Delta Green trust your agent? Why does your agent help Delta Green despite terrible tasks? What I would do, you need to make these like bullet points, because these are great questions that you could just ask and put them here, or even just have them on the sheet as well. I really like these questions. I think what we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, five's enough to be getting on with. Always go for odd numbers. Developments which may affect home and family. So if your agent gets in trouble at work, suffers a reduction in a bond, gains new disorder, suffers a permanent injury, or undergoes any other major change, make a note of it here. Explore the details and ramifications between nations. Let's have a look at what that looks like, actually. Is that... Oh, that's here. Okay. I guess it's tricky, because obviously we used to play... a lot of the games were on paper. And then, obviously, over the last 10 years, we now have stuff like tracker keepers. Obviously, people can write notes in separate books, use word processing, etc. It just feels like... I remember when we were doing D&D on paper, and stuff like that, having a little box like that was just never enough. So it's always tricky. It's nice to have it on the paper so you can see it, but then you're constantly having to write really small or then add it somewhere else. So I don't know how useful that having something like that is here on the character sheet, when I think like you should be encouraging them to do it somewhere else, perhaps. That has a lot more space in it. They can take their time over developing it, etc. Special training. Some bodies of knowledge are not common to every agent, but doesn't require the extensive commitment or skills. Your agent might know how to use a lockpicks without user training in craft, in brackets, locksmith, for example. Each kind of special training is based on an existing stat or skill. Dex for lockpicking, swim for scuba gear, athletics for parachuting, or for throwing hand grenades, and so on. If the handler says your agent has a particular kind of training, write it in one of the spaces along with whatever skills and stats apply. Training here. Oh, nice. See that? Yeah, that makes sense. And it's nice to have like an obvious place to put your skill or stat. Still, that's what I was trying to say. Creating an agent set. Oh, it only takes a few minutes to create. Excellent. We're a big fan of quick character creation here. So, let's see. First of all, we need to choose a profession. What kind of character do you want to play? If you're most interested in exploring strange cultures and ancient history, play an anthropologist or historian. If you're most interested in criminal investigations and uncovering cults and conspiracies, play a federal agent. If you love tech, play a computer scientist or engineer. You like the gory details of what the unnatural does to the human anatomy? Play a physician. I think I would. I think if this game is about like uncovering weirdness and like, you know, if it is like you know, aliens and stuff like that, yeah, I want to be in on the ground floor with the physicians, absolutely. If you're interested in figuring out weird manifestations, play a scientist. I mean, that would also be interesting as well. If you want to play a soldier with extensive training for the war on terror, play a special operator. Nah, I wouldn't. I'm good, thanks. Think up the details as you go. Does your federal agent work for the FBI, the DEA, the US Marshals, or some other agency? Is your scientist a university professor or an EPA specialist? Is your physician a surgeon, a pathologist, or something else? God, could you remember if it'd be something like podiatrist or pediatrics? Your management may vary, but if you were a pediatrics and you had to come in and look at children behaving oddly, or a podiatrist going, we found something really weird at the bottom of our feet. Take a moment to have a look at it. Sorry, I've just had a massive flashback then. There is, in the UK, I'm sure those people who are in the UK will know what I'm talking about, but Embarrassing Bodies, if everyone remembers that, like a Channel 4 slight documentary show where people were so embarrassed to go to the doctors, they would rather go to a TV studio and be interviewed on TV by people to look at the stuff. And I just remember, I won't describe in too much detail because obviously I appreciate that's not what you've tuned in for. You're not tuned in for me to remember medical programs. I remember there was a individual who had their feet covered in some sort of fungus, which was like an inch above their sole. And I think it was a mixture of like hard skin and stuff like that, but I just always remember going, oh, how can that person wear shoes? And they were like, I just don't go out the house. And you're like, oh my goodness, that's so upsetting. Yeah, absolutely, that was fascinating, and it made me interested in like fungus for like ages. So dropship, damn it. Nice try, Dead Toothbrush. I did indeed fix Nightbot. Oh dear, oh dear. Nice to have you here though, Dead Toothbrush. Hope you're doing well this Friday. Yeah, we're looking at Delta Green, the quick start, which could very well indeed include dropships, because it's all sort of like Call of Cthulhu, maybe a little bit of aliens in there as well. So, but nice to have you here then. Caps is fun, haha. No, I agree, Dead Toothbrush, but you know, can't help what Nightbot doesn't like. He doesn't like caps for some reason. Anyway, where was I? Ask the handler whether any appropriate professions are any particular professions are appropriate. This is actually really interesting because I do think sometimes people go in with an idea of what they want to play as, but if you have some knowledge, but like, hey, in order to make the game a bit easier for you, here are some skills that might be beneficial. You know, like the investigation skill or the acrobatics skill. So you're giving you a heads up. That's what I do with my games. I try and read out, I give them a scenario, which, if I say come to the games without thinking very much, here's the scenario, I'll read it out to you. And then here's some pre-generated characters you can use, or what characters would you like to play in it, depending. So I always start with the scenario first so that people can really go, oh, what would I play in this? And often that is more interesting than people bringing their own characters to the game. But that's because normally I am playing from a pre-written scenario on that front. I don't think I've ever played really where people have brought their characters and then built a game from that. But I've played in games where that has happened, and that has been a delight to play in. It's very satisfying, but it's something I've yet to explore as a GM myself. So we've got our profession, and choose statistics. So create your agent's stats to suit the profession. If you're playing a physician, that's probably what we want to do. You probably want a high intelligence. A special operator needs a high con. Of course, you could make con low and say an injury forced your agent to retire. Maybe. Federal agents need to be well-rounded. Pick one of the following sets of numbers and assign each score to one stat. Oh, brilliant. I am a big fan of like standard array kind of things. What we've got here, we've got two 13s, two 12s, and two 11s. And we've got 15, 14, 12, 11, and 10 and 10. Nice. And 17, 14, 13, 10, 10, and 8. Ooh, yeah. I think I'd go for that last one because then you can be really good, really brilliant at something, and then be really average at 10 at something else. Yeah, so you've got some speciality there, and then 8. Not very charismatic, Fiona. And then calculate the derived attributes. These are based on stats, so they're easy to figure out. So hit points is an average of strength and con rounded up. Willpower is equal to POW, those willpower points. Sanity is equal to POW times 5. And the breaking point is sanity minus the POW. So if we've got an example here, so an agent that has 12 strength, 13 con, and 4 power, 14 power, sorry, has 13 HP, 70 willpower points, 14 willpower points, 70 sanity, and a breaking point of 56. So there you go. Name bonds. So profession determines how many bonds your agent gets. Describe each bond. At this early stage, bonds don't need many details, but each should have a name specific to the relationship. For example, ex-husband Taylor, or special agent Wait, frequent FBI partner. Each bond starts with a score equal to your agent's charisma. If your charisma goes down, then each bond drops down the same amount. Dear oh dear. So if we're going for physician, we only get 3. And a 2 if you're a special operator. I mean, 3 makes sense, but I think I would stipulate, like, one of them has to be another doctor on shift. Let's look at some of these examples. We've got spouses or ex-spouses, we've got son or daughter, favourite parent or grandparent could be an interesting one. Spouse and children, colleagues in an intense, difficult job or calling. Church or support group. Ooh, it would be interesting to be, like, part of, like, a group that's at a community. Church would be interesting, again, because it's about maybe hiding what your double life is, right? Then we've got motivations. Other than bonds, what makes your agent tick? Is it intellectual curiosity, the love of a devoted pet? Oh, always. A passionate hobby, something else. Write down motivations as your agent's personality emerges during the game. The agent can have up to 5. Each time your agent hits a breaking point, remove a motivation as a symptom of trauma. Determine professional skills. Each profession comes with a set of skills. Write down their values on the character sheet, and these scores will replace the base rating. So again, very much like Call of Cthulhu here. We were looking for... Oh, it's going to be on the next page, isn't it? Where are you? There's the physician. So, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we will replace these 7 skills with these new ratings here. First aid is only 60%, as is medicine. I thought that would be a little bit higher. And then choose 2 of these if you don't already have. So we've got forensics, psychotherapy, science. Choose one, so that would be some sort of specialization there. So maybe that's where you would put in pediatrics or cardiology is the other one I was thinking of there. Surgery, maybe. And there you go. Let's look at the scientist one. So we've got the same sort of thing. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Same down here. Oh, we got a few more with physician. 5, you've got computer science. Oh, you got different kinds of science as well. Ooh, interesting. Okay. You get really specialised in the science area. So again, it'd be nice if there's a way to be like, I'm sure this is in the core book, where you could like random table of science, like topics, etc. It could also be like a physicist, couldn't it, really? And then you got any 3 of these. Accounting, foreign language. Oh, that'd be quite fun. Forensics, and law, pharmacy, etc. Alright. Choose bonus skills. So pick any 8 skills and add 20% to each of them. So yes, there's another Call of Cthulhu thing. You can increase the skill more than once, but none can be higher than 80% to start with. Put excess points on another skill. That is it. I did not realise you could do that. Is that something I don't know if you could do that in Call of Cthulhu, but that's great, is that you could really double up, say if you were doing, like, if you did get, say, firearms. Or like you want to put firearms and you just got I'm going to add 60% to it. Oh, heck. Alright, and what brought you to Delta Green? If your agent is new to Delta Green, you're done. If your agent is a veteran, pick a traumatic background from the table on page 19 and modify your agent's stats, skills, and sanity accordingly. Work with the handler to determine the details of what happened and how it brought your agent to Delta Green. Again, your mileage may vary with the word of like traumatic background, but it's good to know. So we've got some examples here of people that you can play. So Agent Cornwell, Special Agent Cornwell, Dr. Kamaroff, Kurtz. Let's get Kurtz in here, the computer scientist. He's a genius. McMurtry, yeah. Dr. Palmer, Dr. Schnell, and astrophysicist. Ooh, craft lens making. Oh, excellent. Yeah, I just I was always, what is it with people saying using your surname for things. That's a very male thing to do. I don't know. I've never called anyone by their last name unless they're introduced and oh, that's fine for me to do. I always feel it's like, I don't know, it's like weirdly impersonal to be like, well, what's their first name? Alright, you know, like, I don't know. It's just me. It's probably just me. But let's look at this. Oh, it's trauma table. So what brought your agent? Choose one. Extreme violence, captivity, or imprisonment. Hard experience. Things man was not meant to know. I see. So then your occult score will go up, but you will lose your sanity. Ooh, gosh. And there's some other notes as well. Interesting. Oh, and here's some examples. Like, oh, these are filled in. So this is Agent Cornwell, sorry. A little bit more. So actually, it's quite nice to have example things. So if you're like looking to see like what these are supposed to look like, here's an example that you can do it whilst you're filling in your own. Nice. We'll skip through these because we're not going to look at the adventure, are we? So skip through them. Oh, you know what I hadn't checked? Yeah, look. If you see on, if I go back, yeah. So the sex hasn't been indicated at all. So you can choose. So I'm guessing that it's a bit more, yeah, they must all be sort of gender neutral, which is fabulous. I love that. Massive fan of not defining that for your pre-gens. Very good. Well done, Delta Green. Alright, game system. This is what we're here for. Nice, nice, nice. How are we doing for time? Oh, an hour and 20-ish. Not bad. So, the rules for Delta Green are simple. The handler describes the situation. You say what your agent is going to do about it. The handler decides whether you succeed, as well as what happens next. The core rules of the game revolve around the last step. Do you succeed or not? So, start off by saying, does it require a skill or a stat? If the handler thinks that anyone could pull it off, it doesn't require a skill or a stat, just effort. The skill, if your agent is trying to do something that only someone with a great deal of training could achieve, that requires a skill, and the handler decides what skill apply. If anyone might be able to do it without training, it might require not a skill, but instead a certain score in a stat. Strength if it needs physical power, intelligence if it needs clear reasoning, power if it requires inner fortitude, and so on. That's quite good to really break it down into like that's all skills, because sometimes we always instantly go, oh, it's definitely an acrobatics check, when you're like, it's a strength check, you know. So does it require a roll? If the situation is calm and your agent has time to think, ask questions, plan and prepare, the randomness of a dice roll probably isn't appropriate. The handler decides how much of the skill or stat you need. See what skill ratings represent. Oh, okay, so that's from before. If your agent doesn't have enough, the handler might tell you that someone with deeper expertise or talent could figure it out. If it is a crisis and things are rapidly spinning out of control, roll the dice. If you must roll the dice, roll percentile dice to get a result between 1 and 100. If you roll your skill or lower, or your stat 5 times or lower, your agent succeeds. So yes, it's equal to or lower. If not, the agent suffers the consequences. If you roll a success and the dice match each other, or if you roll a critical 1, it is a critical success. Ooh, oh, I like that. Yeah. Your agent succeeds as perfectly as possible. If you roll a failure and the dice match each other, or if you roll 00, meaning 100, that is a critical failure, also called a fumble. The action fails and your agent suffers some other detriment too. I love matching numbers on dice. That rarely happens in the games I play. I really like that. That's pretty cool. So, opposed rolls. What if two characters are using skills in direct opposition to each other? Maybe you want to oppose an enemy's attack roll with your agent's dodge skill, or you want to defeat someone's alertness with your agent's stealth skill. Both sides will roll as usual. A critical success beats a success, otherwise the highest success die roll wins. If both fail, the result is up to the handler. Maybe they keep trying, or maybe circumstances change and the contest ends inconclusively. So, because I know in Call of Cthulhu we have like success, hard success, extreme success, which is like the levels of like, you know, equal to or under, equal half of that stat and under, or equal to, I think it's a fifth and under. So that's how we sort of defines like successes on that. So if you get like an extreme success versus a normal success, then that person with the extreme success will win. So here, critical success always beats the success. Understandable. If they're both success, the highest succeeding die roll wins. So what does that mean? Is it like the lowest, or is it just like the highest to the stat you've rolled into and win? Pursuit. When one character or something worse wants to catch another, one or more that's one or more opposed tests. Driving versus driving, athletics versus athletics, swim versus swim, whatever makes sense. One opposed test makes for a short chase. In a more substantial pursuit, one side needs 2 successes. Wins cancel out each other. If the quarry wins, that lengthens the lead. The pursuer needs to win once to reduce the lead, and then once to gain ground. A chase should require 3 successes to win, only if it's exceptionally long and drawn out. In a pursuit, a critical success counts as 2 successes, and a critical failure counts as 2 failures. Nice. I like that. It's just keeping it straight and simple. You're not constantly rolling. It's not matching. It's more narrative with the flow. You're not necessarily mapping out where you are on a map. And a luck roll. Excellent. Sometimes the handler will call for a luck roll. If you have to make a luck roll, it doesn't depend on skill, talent, or willpower. Just roll percentile dice. You have a 50% chance of success. Ooh, interesting. Because obviously in Call of Cthulhu, you have your luck points, which I think is an optional rule that you could spend that to pull down your to pull down your result to meet the success, or maybe a hard success, or to meet it to down to certain levels. So here it's just like, yeah, it's just 50%. Don't worry about it. I like that a lot. Then we have bonuses and penalties. In most cases, roll your agent's base dice skill or basic skill or stat rating. If a handler thinks circumstances are exceptionally dire, modify the chance by minus 20%. So subtract 20 from the rating. Oof, that really is lowering down. So if it was like 50%, 50 and under, but it's like really bad, taking that 20% away means that you have to get 30% or under on your D100 roll. If things are exceptionally in your agent's favour, modify the chance by plus 20. So again, that same thing, if it was a 50% chance of it succeeding, but I don't know, you've got people helping you or the circumstances are in your favour, adding 20% means that you have to get 70 or under to succeed. Quite a big difference. In rare, truly extraordinary cases, the bonus and penalty may be with 40% or with minus 40%. Ooh. Is there, I guess, do you roll with advantage, you know, when it's like 3d10s and take the highest tens number? Or, the lowest ones, because it's the opposite way around, isn't it? Alright, combat, our favourites. So combat can take your agent out of the game quickly and permanently. Do not engage in it lightly. So, you have 1 action per turn. Combat is resolved in turns. Each typically lasts a few seconds, but a given turn might represent a split second of violence. Each character acts once in a turn. The character with the highest dex go first. Again, that's a very Cthulhu thing. You work out the initiative by people who react quickest. Then the next highest dex, and the next, and so on until all have acted. When it is your turn, choose 1 action. So, aim, add 20% to your next attack roll. Attack, which is inflict damage. 1 attack and damage roll usually represents a series of blows or 2 to 3 shots of a gun. In hand-to-hand combat, attacking also includes self-defense. See defense rolls later. Then we've got cold shot. So the attack ignores cover or armor, but at a minus 20 penalty or minus 40 for especially hard shot. Disarm. Roll unarmed combat to force a target to drop a weapon or object. This includes self-defense. Dodge. Roll dodge to oppose an attack, disarm, or pin. Escape. Get out of being pinned. Roll either strength times 5 or unarmed combat, whichever is better. This attack is a defense roll against the character pinning your agent. If the pinning character is not attacking, the escape is opposed by his or her unarmored combat or strength times 5, whichever is better. If the escape roll succeeds, your agent is no longer pinned, and the escape roll defends against other attacks until your agent's next turn. Oh, that's nice. So you're not going to get battered necessarily by attacks of opportunity. If it fails, your agent remains pinned and cannot defend against attacks. Fight back. Roll melee weapons or unarmored combat to oppose an attack. Move, jog 10 meters, run 20 meters, or sprint 30 meters. 30 meters. Usually your agent can go about 3 meters as part of another action. Ah, interesting it's gone for meters and not feet. I thought feet was like the done deal in these RPGs, but it is. Pin, hold someone down. Includes self-defense, defense rolls. Your agent can attack the pin target in later turns. Unarmed combat and melee weapons attack on a pin target are plus 20. Stat. A pin target can take no actions except attempting to escape. While pinning a target, you decide whether or not the target can speak. Wait, simply act after someone else's turn. After someone else's action in this turn. And anything else that takes a moment's concentration. Alright, so I would say it would be nice to have these in a box somewhere, really highlight what they're called. It's a little bit like, I could easily miss this page, right? The pinning stuff's interesting, I like the sound of that. But it sounds like as well, like, you can't, yeah, if it's just your action, you can't bonus action, aim, and then attack as your main action, so you have to plan it very carefully. So I like that. I like that a lot. Okay. Defense rolls. What are these then? So dodging and hand-to-hand combat, either using melee weapons or unarmed combat, are tests that could protect your agent from opposing attack rolls. Your agent can dodge or fight back against the oncoming attack even before your agent's dex order in the turn. To do this, it becomes your agent's single action for that turn. Ooh. An agent that has already taken another action that turn cannot dodge or fight back until the next turn. Yeah, so it's all or nothing, isn't it? You don't have reactions, you don't have bonus action. It literally is that this is your one thing. Do you take it? Or do you try and fight back without? Do you try and dodge or fight back, knowing that you won't? If regardless of what happens, you cannot do anything on your turn. Maybe because move is also a you just lose your turn. Ooh. Right. In order to dodge or fight back, the agent must be knowing of an attack is coming and be physically capable of blocking or evading it. An agent who is pinned or unaware cannot dodge or fight back. Right, so dodging opposes all hand-to-hand attacks that turn and lets your agent duck behind cover to evade all ranged attacks that turn. Right, so it's not just a one-off thing, it's all attacks. Nice. The cover must be within about 3 meters, close enough to duck behind. Dodging protects against each attack that your roll beats. Ooh. Okay, that your roll beats, no, fine. Dodging never inflicts damage. Yeah, absolutely. Attacking or fighting back, so opposes each hand-to-hand attack that turn. It cannot protect against ranged attacks unless your agent physically interferes with that weapon. When fighting back, choose an offensive action. Attack, cold shot, disarm, or pin. Your attack, if your roll beats the attacker's action has no effect, and your agent's action affects the attacker. While the roll defends against all attackers, the offensive action only affects a single target. Yeah, okay, that makes it clear. So, a successful attack inflicts damage which reduces the victim's hit points. Damage depends on the weapon. At 2 hit points or below, your agent falls unconscious for an hour or until healed to at least 3 HP. Ooh. An agent injured seriously must roll a con test. If it fails, look at the lowest die on the percentile dice as a single d10. The agent loses that many points from a single stat of the handler's choice. Ooh, permanently. To a minimum of score of 3. Oh my goodness, that is so brutal. A single stat, so that's the ones at the top, so strength, dexterity, con, power, not wisdom, charisma, right? Because we don't have appearance here. Ooh, that's brutal. 0 hit points, your agent dies unless the handler says otherwise. The handler has a lot of discretion. Sometimes common sense says a character can be kept alive with the prompt medical care such as surgery or first aid. Sometimes it's clear that there is no hope. Hit points never go below 0. First aid restores 1d4 hit points and can be attempted only once each time an agent is injured. An agent resting safely gets a contest once per day to recover 1 hit point. Medicine or surgery roll, whichever is appropriate, restores 1d4 hit points once per week. Yeah, so you don't heal overnight with this game either. lethality rating. So sometimes the threat is so dire that an ordinary damage roll isn't enough. It isn't enough. A machine gun, explosive, poison, or heavy weapon has a lethality rating. That's the percent chance of a threat immediately reducing the target to 0 hit points. If that fails, the target still takes damage equal to the 2 percentile dice added together as an individual 10-sided die. Kill radius. As a lethality weapon that can affect many targets at once, it has a kill radius. If it is an explosive, add a plus 20 chance to hit. Oof. Choose the center of the radius before attacking, and the effect depends on the attack roll. So we have hit, roll lethality for everyone inside the radius. The handler can decide. Excuse me. Decide if some targets are exempted. Everyone who survives is suppressed. Miss. Everyone who would have been in the kill radius is suppressed. What does that mean? Is that some sort of condition? Oh, it says it up here. Suppression. If your agent is suppressed, your agent must either hide behind cover or go prone. If your agent can't hide behind cover or go prone, you lose 1 sanity but can act normally. Oof, brutal. Okay, armor and cover. If something sturdy stands between you and your agent, and harm, it acts as armor and has an armor value. The effect depends on what kind of protection and the kind of attack. So body armor, no effect on a successful lethality roll. Reduce the damage of an ordinary attack unless it's a called shot. Cover causes a lethality roll to automatically fail, but remember, failed lethality roll still inflicts hit point damage. Cover reduces the damage from any attack except a called shot. Armor piercing weapons. If the weapon has an armor piercing rating, it reduces your agent's protection armor rating by that much for the attack. And then we've got some example rolls here. So you got great, get the rifle 1d12, the best dice out, and then we've got some examples here. They're like shotgun, burst lethality. It has that rating there with 10. There's no damage die on that though. Interesting. Maybe they'd miss that off for some reason. Strength and damage. So high or low strength modifies unarmed combat and melee melee weapons damage roll to a minimum of 0. Yeah, so again, that's something in Call of Cthulhu as well. Oh, well, kind of. As Call of Cthulhu uses size a little bit to talk about melee, like additional if you're doing unarmed combat, for example. Alright, well, we've got past. Well done, everyone. We've got past combat. I know it's a drain for everyone, but now we're on to sanity. So again, take care of yourselves in this one. So, agents at Delta Green are as vulnerable to mental trauma as they are to physical threats. We track that vulnerability in sanity points. When the sanity drops sharply, the agent loses self-control, and the player loses control of the agent. Threats to sanity. So there are 3 types of sanity losses. Violence, both suffering it and inflicting it. Helplessness, and the unnatural. Each threat comes with 2 possible sanity losses, one more severe than the other. Yeah, again, that's from Call of Cthulhu, so if you pass a check, you may still lose some points. When your agent faces one of those threats, make a sanity roll. That means rolling your agent's current sanity or lower on a percentile dice. If you succeed, the agent suffers the lowest loss. With a critical success, the agent suffers a minimal loss possible. But if you fail, your agent suffers the higher loss. With a critical failure, loses the maximum possible. Here's some examples. So, take, for example, if you're surprised by a corpse and you do a sanity check, but you go unequal to or under, you succeed, you don't take any sanity loss there. But if you fail it, you will take 1 point of sanity loss there. You can see here, like, again, tortured. Yeah. If you pass the check, 0, but then you might get 1d10 if you fail. And I can see what else we've got here. We've got, destroy a teammate's body to thwart an investigation. I see. So here we've got, for a failed roll, add add 1 per victim to the maximum possible die roll. So 4, 6. Oh gosh, that's so. Oh. Accidentally killing an innocent. Killing an innocent in cold blood, even for a good reason. I mean, these again they're giving examples of like what kind of stories you could tell. So. Helplessness, fired from your job. Waking up paralyzed or blind. Okay. A A bond suffering permanent harm or indefinite insanity. Feel maybe we could write this a little better. I don't know. I find this so tricky in horror because you want to explain like this is what happened to you, but not make it too game mechanic-y. But that's what sanity is really. We got seeing a corpse walk. Cool. Tight. Suffering a violent supernatural assault. Alright, well, it's nice that it only covers one page in that sort of sense. And I think it covers it pretty quickly. Delta Green, hello, the bad spot. Hello. How are you doing, my friend? Yes, we're looking at the quick start for Delta Green on this. So far, so good. We're just going through it, like I said, the quick start, the need to know stuff. But hope you're doing well, my friend. Thanks for joining. Insanity. So insanity is what happens when you lose too many sanity points. There are 3 kinds of sanity in Delta Green. Temporary, from short, overwhelming shocks. Indefinite insanity from accumulated stresses, and a permanent insanity when your agent has been driven completely beyond reason. I see. So temporary. So if your agent loses 5 or more sanity from a single event, your agent goes temporarily insane. This means a fight or flight response takes over. Your agent either runs away, lashes out mindlessly, or curls up into a helpless ball. It lasts until the handler says the agent snaps out of it, usually a few minutes after the source of sanity lost goes away. It's quite good to make a note of that, like they lose 5 or more sanity. Again, it comes from Call of Cthulhu as well, but I do quite like it. But like, how much sanity is that you've lost from a single event? And they go, oh no, it's 5 from that single event. So it's like disorder. So, an agent whose sanity score reaches the breaking point gains a long-term mental disorder. Its nature and symptoms depend on the kind of trauma that pushed the agent to the breaking point: violence, helplessness, or the unnatural. The symptoms usually don't manifest straight away. When your agent reaches the breaking point, make a note on your character sheet that you've gained a new disorder and whether it came from violence, helplessness, or the unnatural. Now, the breaking point changes to its new value, the agent's current sanity minus the power. The handler will determine the details of your agent's new disorder later in the operation, or perhaps between this operation and next. Acute episode. So once the agent has gained a disorder, further stresses may bring it to the fore. Anytime your agent loses 2 plus sanity, so 2 or more sanity points, or confronts some traumatic trigger directly related to the disorder, your agent suffers an acute episode. Until the source of stress goes away, the order cannot be controlled. The handler always decides the exact repercussions and whether it happens immediately or builds gradually in the aftermath of trauma. So here's some examples, and they're defined in the agent's handbook, but many are self-explanatory. I'm sure they will do. They'll probably be, maybe they're a bit more like, here's some mechanics to put with them, perhaps, which again, I don't know. It doesn't look like it. They'd probably put them here as well if there was. So maybe it's not mechanic, it's just more of a role-play type thing, which again, we need to treat carefully about these sort of. For example, the disorders from violence, we've got PTSD, we've got addiction, we've got paranoia, ligiophobia, and totemic bullshit. Enclosure-related phobia, conversion disorder, dissociative identity disorder. And have to be a bit careful about these, especially if it's a roleplay thing. Again, session 0, lines and veils. Disorder from the unnatural. Fugues? Megalomania? And then permanent sanity. Your agent's sanity reaches 0. Your agent goes completely insane. It goes beyond it. It becomes a handler character, and it's time to make up a new one. Alright, preserving sanity. Where there is sanity loss, your agent can attempt to reduce it by projecting it onto a crucial personal relationship, damaging a bond. Oh no. Spend 1d4 willpower points. If your agent still has 1 willpower points, reduce the sanity loss by that amount of willpower points spent to a minimum of 0, and reduce the bond score by the same amount. The next time your agent interacts with the bond, decide what shape the damage takes. Does your agent grow hostile and angry, irrationally blaming the loved one for the imagined wrongs? Does your agent abandon the loved one in favour of relationships with less importance and meaning? The stresses faced by Delta Green agents often wreck the families and friendships that give them strength. Yeah, getting proper Hunter the Vigil vibes there. This idea that you can't tell them, you've got to keep them protected, etc. But then as a result, it strains on the relationship. I quite like that though. That you could be like, oh, this person that's not, you know, it's a gameplay mechanic, but then having to maybe role play that consequence. That sounds really fun. Another great video, thanks. Oh hey, QVAM, hope you're doing well. Hey, can someone play Delta Green or other tabletop RPGs with you, perhaps on Discord, etc.? That's very kind of you. We do have a Discord. I'll put it in the chat now before I forget, where we just talk about tabletop RPGs. Unfortunately, I'm so busy. It's unlikely that I'll be able to do any sort of open gaming stuff just because the way my work is and stuff. But please feel free to join the Discord. Where are you? Oh, is it not coming through? It might come through on YouTube in a second. If not, I'll send the link through in a second. But yeah, we're a nice little group of people that talk about, because I do podcasts on tabletop RPGs, and you could just check in and see if there's anyone out there that might want to play Delta Green as well. Would it go into it? Oh, there it goes through. The Bad Spot says, even with lines of veils in play, I find insanity mechanics in games and feel a little off. Like, it needs a real light touch. I completely agree with you, Bad Spot. It's so tricky. Even D&D also has it as well. They have like honor and sanity mechanics you could put in as well. It's very optional, and it's tricky because you don't want to, like you said, you don't want to make light of something that is a very serious thing for quite a lot of us in the tabletop RPG space. But you want to be able to show the impact of seeing something that man has knowledge, more knowledge than they would ever know, and seeing beyond, and like what would happen in that respect. So yeah, I think the terminology is so tricky, but again, as long as people are on the same page about it and fully check in and stuff like that. But yeah, I totally feel you as well. Yeah, a real tightrope. Yeah, I've played through Call of Cthulhu on what am I rolling once. We had a really good time with it, and then we've played it again in person. We did like a couple of in-person sessions off podcast, and people did enjoy it. But yeah, we did struggle with the mechanics of, and even Alien also has it as well, the RPG by Free League. You have obviously the really nice, cool D66 table, which of injuries and stuff. But if you get a certain number of stress, then there is something called a permanent sanity table. And I remember talking to my players at the time, going, "Hey, so there is this table, which can happen if you get a lot of stress and you roll very high, and then you get this as a permanent thing. And a lot of it is role play, but do we want it in the game?" And people were like, "Nah, we're good." And I was like, "Yeah, cool." So I took it out completely. So yeah, it's so tricky on that front. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because it's such a tricky thing. I don't think even I've got a good answer for like how I would treat it carefully, because I think it's just one of those things which I don't have the skills or the experience or the not even the training for it. It's one of those things where I think we'd all feel a bit uncomfortable about it. And other horror games do it much better in the sense that like we don't necessarily have to have the sanity aspect in. Like Cult, Divinity Lost, doesn't have a sanity thing, and that is great, and it's equally horrible. Reducing sanity loss. So where there is sanity loss, your agent can attempt to reduce it by projecting it onto a crucial personal... Oh, I've already said this. What am I talking about? Adapting the sanity loss. So this was... Oh god, that is terrifying, isn't it? Okay, is it... What? Wait streaming? Wait... Oh yeah, it does say weights, doesn't it? Yeah, weights streaming. I thought it said wait, it's streaming. Adapting to sanity loss. So an agent who loses sanity from a threat 3 times without going insane becomes adapted. If your agent loses sanity due to helplessness or violence, check one of the 3 boxes for that threat on the character sheet under incidents of san loss without going insane. We can look at that in a second on the character sheet, so we see where that is. If your agent goes insane or reaches the breaking point due to that threat, erase all of its checks. If you check all 3 boxes for a threat, your agent becomes adapted to the threat. When adapted to a threat, your agent sanity tests always succeed, but adapting to a threat changes your agent and not for the better. No agent can adapt to the unnatural. So I guess it's that thing where you just become sort of desensitized to the violence, to seeing a body, all that sort of thing. But certain things will still unnerve you. But like, yeah, so adapting to violence, so permanently losing 1d6 to your charisma, and the same amount for each bond, yes, because they're connected to that. Loses no sanity for ignoring suppression. Oh, that's on the kill radius. But then adapting to helplessness, permanently lose 1d6 power. Interesting. I'm guessing that once that happens, you have to rub it out and do it again and again. Yeah, that's what it said earlier, right? Yeah, it's one thing hand-waving and saying a PC is driven mad by witnessing cosmic horrors that can't be comprehended. It's another role-playing someone specifically with PTSD. Yeah, 100% on the money on that one. Yeah, I agree. If anything, what's interesting, sorry, let's come back to it. So we did an interview with Dr. Gary Coleman on Game Therapy UK about their project. So the Game Therapy UK is a charity that does role-playing games with people who are vulnerable people and groups that are at risk of social isolation. And one of the groups he runs games for is veterans of the army, so army veterans, navy, etc. Because he himself was in the army for several years as a doctor. And so when he talks about like, hey, there's some stuff in this which will bring up possibly very triggering things, they have to do surveys and stuff and say, hey, does the stuff in these games trigger you, and is there a way that we can mitigate it? And a lot of those responses he got when we talked about it in the interview was like, oh yeah, they replied back and going, yeah, this absolutely triggers us, but it's a way for us to go back through those memories and those experiences and like put a different spin on it in a way. I'm not saying it exactly right, but it's, you know, changing it so that they are just memories and separating ourselves out from it, so almost reliving it through a very controlled, safe environment. So that was really interesting to hear him talk about that. So that might be something interesting for you, Bad Spot, if you wanted to check out that thing. Because yeah, I agree. Like, you know, if you're running games with people who experience PTSD, like, you know, are they okay to play stuff like Call of Cthulhu? Because ultimately you leave the charge of a narrative and what happens to the characters in their hands. Because they could be like, no, not for me. And you go, okay, let's change the game system. Let's change the story. You know. Repressing symptoms of insanity. So when suffering temporary insanity or acute episode of a disorder, your agent can try to repress it by focusing on the people who depend on him or her. Spend 1d4 willpower points and reduce a bond by the same amount. You may attempt a sanity test. If successful, your agent stifles the symptoms of insanity and you retain control of your character after all. Next time your agent interacts with that bond, describe how the relationship is worsened. I like that an idea, like if you're suffering under some sort of condition, that you are spending more of this resource and then having a consequence afterwards. And then regaining sanity points by seeking therapy between operations. Hooray, maybe that should be on the company card, right? Delta Green therapy. Yeah, on their healthcare policy for everyone. By seeking therapy between operations, which can raise sanity no higher than the agent's power times 5, and by overcoming unnatural threats, which can raise sanity as high as 99 minus the agent's unnatural skill rating. Oh, is the unnatural rating supposed to be a bit like the occult that we have in Call of Cthulhu? Because that's, yeah. And these options are detailed in the core rulebook. Absolutely. Cool. Willpower. So agents need willpower to withstand exhaustion and mental trauma, to resist interrogation and persuasion, to enact unnatural ritual. So low willpower, at 1 or 2 willpower, your agent will have an emotional breakdown, suffering a -2 penalty to all actions until willpower rises above 2 points. At 0 willpower points, your agent collapses, incapacitated, and sometimes unconscious, and cannot succeed at any tests, including sanity rolls. Okay, fair enough. You know that will get you arrested. Oh, I guess so. Pop. Regaining willpower. Fulfilling a personal motivation in a way that the handler finds compelling restores 1 willpower point. A full night restores 1d6 willpower. Okay, so almost like a short rest for your willpower then. Exhaustion. The first time your agent tries to sleep after suffering temporary insanity or reaching the breaking point, you must make a sanity test for agents to get any rest. After failing to get a good night's rest or working on in the hours without a break, constitution, isn't it? An agent loses 1d6 willpower and becomes exhausted. They suffer a -20 penalty, a -20% penalty to all skills, tests, and sanity rolls. A full night's rest removes the penalty. So we've got stuff like using sedatives, stimulants, addiction. So again, your mileage may vary a little bit on what those are contained in the game, perhaps as well. Certainly, if you're role-playing folks that may have, what's the word for it? Addictions such as alcoholism or drugs. Just be careful with it. So, bonding. So after someone in your agent's Delta Green team undergoes a catastrophic trauma, such as going insane or being badly hurt, roll for a sanity test. Success has no effect. But if it fails, the emotional attachments form. Follow this process for each teammate for up to 5. If there's not an existing bond, if your agent doesn't already have a bond with a teammate, gain a new bond equal to half your agent's charisma. Change the Delta Green. Write Delta Green next to a new bond. Your agent immediately loses 1d4 points from one another. Non-Delta Green. Oh, I see. So it's almost like you're getting immersed within the team. I understand. If there is an existing bond, your agent already has a bond with a teammate, add 1d4 to it, and then subtract 1 from another non-Delta Green bond if your agent has any left. So yeah, it's the idea that you're starting to lose your friends from the outside, and then getting involved with your work. I understand. Now we've got home. So some scenes focus on the agent's lives between operations. Use them to explore the things that are important to your agent and the cost of involvement in Delta Green. The personal pursuit. So choose one personal pursuit. Describe how your agent is pursuing it and roll the appropriate test to resolve it. Some pursuits damage bonds, but only non-Delta Green. As your agent lets relationships lapse. Here's a few examples. So we've got fulfill responsibilities. Oh no, not adulting. Go to therapy but lie about your unnatural traumas. Go to therapy and tell the awful truth. Oh gosh. Study the unnatural. Okay, so there's a few examples there of what you can do. Nice. Alright, so some different things. And then it goes on to terrifying images. Oh no. One's face has been scratched out. But we're not going to look at the scenario. So let's recap, shall we? So what do we think of Delta Green? Start. Roll to fulfill responsibility. The bad stop doing that. No, you see right through me. So what do I like about it? Yeah, I guess I don't really have as much detail as I thought I'd get. I mean, I guess the core book talks more about the setting per se and what would really, like, because I guess I feel a bit spoiled in a way because I have read the Hunter the Vigil recently, and that talks about your individual hunters fighting against the darkness, that sort of supernatural thing, but you're in cells, which then are formed part of greater conspiracies, and there's like 10 big conspiracies that have certain like goals, and each cell is conspiracies and something else. Maybe there's something in between, I can't remember. But you're all related to certain philosophies, perhaps, and they're dotted all around the world, and that was really interesting to read the lore around that. Here, like, it gives a good example of, like, here's how to start off. I guess it's supposed to be like almost neutral, that you could set it at any time period in the US, perhaps. I think after the 1960s, right? Because that's when it sort of talks about the sort of the alien sort of incidents and stuff and weirdness. Yeah, because you have that history about what Delta Green is. Very short, very efficient. So I quite like that. I guess I like some of the changes it does from the base Call of Cthulhu system. I think the luck rolls are quite good. It sounds like you can't push the roll either. Which is a mechanic where essentially, like, you know, if you want to try again to push the roll, you could do it, but if you fail again, there's worse consequences for it, which I quite like. And the thing about the sanity stuff, gives or takes, you know, like it is ultimately session 0, lines and veils, is the good way to start talking about this thing, but just be constantly aware that it's such a hot topic, is the way a sensitive topic as well, that people, you know, you don't know other people's business. Even if you've known them for 10 years, they might be, you know, going through things that you're not aware of. So it's very careful to be checking in about this and treating it, I think, definitely more as a mechanic rather than a role play thing. But even then, I do feel like it's a bit there's a bit of an ick around that as well. But you need to demonstrate the impact about why people would retire from dealing with these horrors and having the impact in some way. So yeah, I think straightforward enough in terms of like, I thought it's nice to see character creation in a game like this. Like, again, it's very straightforward. I love it when it just says you just use these free standard array, just go from there, make the character sheet. Oh, that was the one thing I wanted to check with that character sheet. Let me zoom ahead a little bit. Right, let's see. So where are the injuries? Are the injuries on the front? We've got all that sort of thing. There you go. So it's here. Right, so that's where you'd find the violence and helplessness, but you would never take it from the unnatural, because the unnatural is always going to surprise you. Okay, so it's all on the first page, which is good. Except wounds and ailments are on this side. I guess that is more roleplay, perhaps. Yeah, I think ultimately it makes sense it's on 2 pages. It's a little bit tiny writing, though, isn't it? I appreciate I've zoomed in a little bit now, but like, and I'm sure there's form-fillable versions of this, or you could put this into a Google Sheet. Oh, like I'm sure there is going to be like character trackers as well. So yeah, very cool. Nice, and it's very clean as well. I do like how it is like a restricted file. It's very subtle, that, but I do quite like it, and I do quite like with the images as well. And again, not too fussed about the actual images, but I do quite like the additions of the aesthetic tape you tape to things. Yeah, I do quite like that, and a little bit of smudges and marks, etc. So there you go. That is Delta Green. I will put another link to it here. This is where you can go grab it on the Arc Dreaming gaming thing. You can also get it on DriveThruRPG. It's free. It's a quick start. It's about 52 pages, and it's got enough, I think, for people to get going on it. So thank you so much for joining me for this lovely afternoon. Almost, oh, we're rocking at 2 hours. Nice. Thank you so much for watching. I very much appreciate all of your comments, and I hope to do more of these things in future. Will I do it on Sunday? Maybe. I've honestly not been. I've been a little bit busy with actual like role for adulting stuff, role to fulfill responsibility. I think we should have a t-shirt with that on, huh? But I will go and have a look through my diary and see if I can do that. Oh, see you. Thank you, Dead Toothbrush. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you. If you well, hope you have a good weekend. If I don't hear from you before. What was I going to say? Might do another one on Sunday, but it might be quite late. I've got a few bits and pieces I need to do over the weekend. I did promise I might do a stream, like a solo tabletop RPG stream. Tomorrow, like Be Like a Crow. I'm still deciding on that because I do need to do some editing, unfortunately, for the podcast. Which fun stream. Thank you so much, the Bad Spot. Feel free to join the Discord. I'll put another link to it. Again, if you're interested in talking more about that sort of stuff, I very much appreciate your thoughts on it. Time for Ham's new video premiere. Of course, yes, my co-host, Fueled by Chaos, who's probably gone off, is getting home from work just now. It's a bit of a new video for his probably Necromunda or Warhammer stuff. But yeah, so check out the Discord. That's hopefully coming through. But if you're like, Fiona, where can we find out more about your work? Cheers. Thanks, Q Van. Nice to have you here. Thank you. If you want to check out, we've got the What Am I Rolling podcast, which is a twice monthly tabletop RPG one-shot podcast. We've been doing a lot of interviews lately, but we've also got lots of like sessions of one-off systems and stuff. We've done. If you want to check Call of Cthulhu, that is going to be the Amidst the Ancient Trees one. That's a couple of 2 years old. I'd recommend checking that out with some good friends. There's some nice voice acting in there, I would say. So yeah, lots of different systems if you'd like to try them out. If you're like, Fiona, I don't care about Delta Green, just give me about the D&D stuff. I was like, all right, well, we do have another podcast on that, where it's the DM's Book Club. We read the books so that you don't have to. We often find when people are running games for tabletop RPGs and also, D&D, there's a lot of lore, there's a lot of canon, and you're like, oh, how am I going to fit this into an interesting campaign? So we read D&D every week, and we talk about what we like about it, how would we improve it for not just D&D, but for all games and all systems, because there shouldn't be one system for everyone. That's not the way that storytelling works. So please go check out the DM's Book Club. We've done a really cool one on monks recently, which I'm very proud of. And the one before that I do want to mention, we had Jordan from The Books to Last, someone who's never played RPGs before, brought her favourite book series called the Gentleman Bastards sequence, and we made that into a setting that she could go and run with her friends. Because this is the thing, ultimately, because I'm someone who always runs published adventures, because I'm a scaredy cat. I'm like, you can't put things out, and I can't set them out. But then being able to create a setting with her about her favourite book series, I gave her lots of ideas for what kind of stories she wanted to run. So that was really cool. And I'd highly recommend checking out the Books to Last podcast as well if you're interested in reading. So yeah, go check this out. Is there anything else? I guess I always keep forgetting to talk about this thing. But if you're in the UK, we do have an offer code on the Tabletop Dominion. If you just put in WAIR, so that's WAIR into checkout, you get 10% off any dice things. That might be something that you guys are interested in. You can always have more dice. That's my sort of motto. So go check that out. Thanks for the show. Thanks, Super Dylan. Thanks for joining. I hope the rest of your day goes well and have a great weekend as well. With all that out the way, I'm gonna go and get some food, and then I've got to recording in like an hour and a bit. I better go get ready for that. As another thing, Actual Play UK, they're streaming tonight the first part of Heart, the City Beneath, which is the Rowan Rook and Descartes' brilliant dungeon creepiness, I'd call it. And I'm in that. I will not be watching live because I'll be recording the second part of it. I need to go get ready for it. But yeah, go check that out on Actual Play UK's Twitch. That's all the plugs, I promise. I'm going to leave now. Have a wonderful evening. Have a wonderful weekend. Maybe I'll see you across the weekend. Play more games, as always. I'm going to find the end of screen button and I'm going to wave awkwardly until then. Bye!